Toaster? Are you kidding me?
Lieutenant Commander Bill Hastings had a lot of opinions about call signs, and he made sure the whole ready room heard his opinion about hers. Lullaby? He said, reading it off the roster with a smirk. What kind of call sign is lullaby for a fighter pilot? Sounds like something you'd hear in a nursery, not a cockpit. A few pilots chuckled. Lieutenant Naomi Reyes sat near the back, saying nothing, tightening the strap on her flight glove. No offense, Bill continued, enjoying the laughs now, but you might want to request a new one before the joint exercise, something with a little more bite. I didn't pick it, Naomi said quietly, not looking up. It picked me. What's that supposed to mean? You'll find out. He laughed again, waving her off, already moving on to the next name on the roster. 8 minutes into the exercise the following week, 24 simulated enemy aircraft were confirmed destroyed on the tactical display, every single kill logged under one call sign, Lullaby. Bill Hastings sat in the debrief room, staring at the number in absolute silence, slowly understanding exactly why nobody who'd actually flown against her ever made fun of that name twice. Stick around, because what happens over the next 20 minutes of this story is one of the most jaw-dropping performances we've ever covered on this channel. And if you love watching quiet pilots deliver results loud enough to silence an entire room, hit subscribe right now, because we post a new story exactly like this one every single week. Naomi Reyes had earned her call sign the way most pilots earn the ones that actually stick, not by choosing it herself, but by doing something in a cockpit that made everyone who witnessed it decide the name on their own. 2 years earlier, during a live training exercise gone unexpectedly complicated, she'd taken down an entire simulated strike package so quickly and so quietly that the opposing pilots hadn't realized they were being engaged until their aircraft were already marked destroyed on the tactical display. One of the instructors watching the debrief afterward had put it simply, "You didn't even hear her coming. She just put you to sleep." The name stuck within the week, spreading through the squadron long before Naomi herself had any say in the matter. She'd flown with quiet, methodical precision her entire career, never the loudest voice in a briefing room, never the pilot bragging about kill counts in the pilot's lounge, but consistently, almost unnervingly effective in the cockpit when it actually mattered. Instructors who'd flown against her respected her. Instructors who'd only heard her call sign, without ever actually seeing her fly, occasionally made exactly the mistake Bill Hastings was about to make. Today's joint exercise was designed to simulate a large-scale enemy air engagement, dozens of aggressor aircraft, complex airspace, and a scoring system that rewarded speed and precision above almost everything else. It was, as it happened, exactly the kind of scenario her call sign had been built for. Bill Hastings wasn't a bad pilot. He'd flown for 9 years, held a respectable record, and genuinely believed the jokes he made in the ready room were harmless. The problem was, he'd never actually flown against Naomi Reyes before. He'd only heard the call sign, decided it sounded unserious, and built an entire opinion of her skill around 4 syllables without bothering to check the record attached to them. "Look, I'm not trying to be harsh," he said, catching up to her after the briefing. "I just think call signs matter. They set a tone. Lullaby doesn't exactly scream combat pilot to me." "It doesn't need to scream anything," Naomi said. "It just needs to be accurate." "Accurate how?" "You'll see next week." He laughed again, shaking his head as he walked off toward the flight line, already forgetting the conversation entirely. The following week, the joint exercise kicked off exactly on schedule. A complex, multi-wave engagement designed to simulate an overwhelming enemy air response. 24 aggressor aircraft, split across multiple formations, tasked with testing the squadron's ability to handle a scenario most pilots would only ever encounter in the worst version of a real conflict. Naomi launched with the second wave, quiet as always, saying almost nothing over the radio as she worked her way into position. 8 minutes later, the exercise ended early, not because of a scheduling issue, but because every single enemy aircraft had already been marked destroyed on the tactical display. If you love watching someone let their performance speak louder than any comeback ever could, you're going to enjoy the rest of this story even more. But first, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, because this channel is full of moments exactly like this one. The debrief room was unusually quiet, as the exercise controller pulled up the tactical replay, walking the assembled pilots through exactly what had happened in those 8 minutes. Naomi Reyes had entered the engagement from an angle nobody had anticipated, using terrain and formation gaps that the aggressor pilots hadn't accounted for, picking off aircraft in a sequence so efficient that several of the enemy pilots hadn't realized they'd been engaged until their systems flagged them as destroyed. 24 confirmed kills, 8 minutes, 1 pilot. Bill Hastings sat near the back of the room, staring at the display, the number refusing to fully register even as the controller confirmed it a second time for the room. "I want to be clear," the controller said. "This isn't just an impressive number. This is one of the most efficient single-pilot engagements this squadron has ever recorded in a training exercise of this scale." Naomi said nothing throughout the entire debrief, sitting quietly near the front, exactly the way she always did. After the room cleared out, Bill approached her, visibly struggling with what to say. "Lieutenant Reyes, he started, then stopped, trying again. "I owe you an apology." "For the call sign comment?" "For all of it. I decided your name sounded unserious, and I built an entire opinion around that without ever actually watching you fly. That's on me." "It happens," she said simply. "People hear lullaby and expect something soft. They don't think about what a lullaby actually does. It goes unnoticed right up until you're already asleep." He absorbed that for a moment. "That's a better explanation than I deserve after the way I talked about it." Word of the exercise results spread through the base within hours, the kind of story that pilots retell not because it's embarrassing to anyone specific, but because the numbers themselves were simply too remarkable not to share. Bill didn't try to minimize his role in the story. When his own squadron mates asked him about the ready room comments beforehand, he told it exactly as it happened, including the part where he'd suggested she request a tougher-sounding call sign. "Worst red I've ever made on a pilot," he admitted. "I judged her by a word instead of a record, and the record made me look like an idiot in under 10 minutes. In the weeks that followed, something shifted in how Bill approached new pilots joining the squadron. He stopped forming opinions based on call signs, reputations, or first impressions, and started actually reviewing flight records and asking questions before deciding who deserved his respect in a briefing room. Naomi, for her part, never brought up the incident again. She didn't need to. The tactical replay of those 8 minutes became required viewing for new pilots joining the squadron, not as a story about Bill's mistake, but as a masterclass in exactly the kind of quiet, methodical execution that actually wins engagements, regardless of how unassuming the pilot behind it might seem walking into a room. 3 months later, during a separate exercise, a new pilot's unusual call sign drew a few quiet snickers in the ready room. Bill was the one who spoke up this time. "Careful," he said, only half joking. "Last person I judged by their call sign put 24 kills on the board in 8 minutes. Ask around before you laugh." Naomi Reyes went on to become one of the most requested instructors in advanced tactics training over the following 2 years. Her reputation built entirely on results rather than volume. Pilots who flew with her consistently described her as, somehow, the calmest, quietest presence in the cockpit, right up until the moment the engagement began. The story of the 8-minute exercise became something of a fixture in the squadron's informal history, told to every new class of pilots who rotated through, usually accompanied by the same piece of advice Bill Hastings now gave freely to anyone who'd listen. "Don't judge a pilot by their call sign," he'd say. "Judge them by what happens the first time you actually fly against them. By then, it's usually too late to change your opinion anyway. Here's a question for you. If you heard a call sign like lullaby before ever seeing someone fly, would you have made the same assumption Bill did? Or would you have waited to see the record before forming an opinion? Tell me your honest answer in the comments below. I want to know if a name alone would have shaped your expectations the way it shaped his. If this story kept you hooked the way it did while I was writing it, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because we post a brand new story just like this one every single week. Stories about quiet people who let their results do all the talking. Tap the notification bell too so you never miss the next one. Thanks for watching all the way through. I'll see you in the next story.